don't know why the camera wants to do that once we. All right. Should have picked it up. All right, there we go.
Cheers. Hello. Sleep apnea. It kills. And it is a killer. And we're going to talk today about this notorious sleep apnea. Two of the things that we already know. 3 things the body cannot live without. 1, blood and oxygen. 2, food and water. And 3, sleep. You got to have all 3 of them. And you need the proper amount of sleep in order to sustain the vitality of the body. So we're here today, All Veterans Empowerment Services, that is Tolia Hutchinson Jr., All Veterans Empowerment Services, better known as AVISA. We're here today to discuss the effects of sleep apnea on the human body and its causes and the effects of it. Reason why we want to broach the subject, because so many of the people that we encounter that we help with their claim, invariably, once we go through the conditions and diseases that they have, we find out that 9 times out of 10, they're going to wind up with sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is that condition, and usually they refer to it as obstructive sleep apnea. So any one of you out there who listens to my voice, that's a veteran, whether you were in the Korean War, Vietnam War, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Iraqi Freedom, any war that you've been in, or any military service that you was in, even not in the combat itself, but if you were in a stressful job, just even being stressed out can cause you to have sleep apnea. And usually it's related to or secondary to a disability or a disease that you have, that you contracted while you were in the military. A lot of people don't know this, so that's why we wanted to do a segment on it, because we want you to understand there are a lot of you veterans out there right now who are suffering from sleep apnea. You don't know why you setting up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, can't go to sleep. When you go to sleep, you can't stay asleep because you sleep a minute or two. Next thing you know, you waking up again. Or while you sleeping, you don't realize that you're snoring and you coming in and out of consciousness with sleep apnea. And let me tell you, it is absolutely a killer, because what you can wind up doing while you're asleep, simply because you stop breathing, the muscles in your lungs and in your throat stop preventing you from breathing. And if you stop breathing so long, you just die. Then it says it's death of natural causes, when in effect, actually, you died because you stopped breathing in your sleep. Now, if you haven't had a sleep study as a veteran who has a problem sleeping at night, then you need to get to a doctor. It can be a private doctor, or you can go to your VA primary care physician, ask for a sleep apnea test, examination, and they will give you an examination. I've taken it. All you do is you go in about 8 o'clock or 6 or 8 o'clock in the evening. They hook you up to the machine, put you in a room in there, and it's black dark. And they hook you up with all these machines. And what they're doing is that they're testing you, and they're giving you the examination. And so you're gonna lay down and you sleep, and you'll be there for 8 hours. On the following morning, they wake you up, and then they're able to go back through what occurred while you were sleeping that night. So I know in my case, I stopped breathing 72 times while I was doing my sleep study. 72 times. That's how many times I stopped breathing, because I had no oxygenation was going through my body. The other thing that sleep apnea does, because of poor oxygenation, you wind up having a heart disease, because if the heart does not get enough airflow while you are asleep, then it causes your heart to beat faster. It causes your heart to be to pump what I call irregular because it's under a strain.
That's right.
And what happens is then when that heart gets under strain, if you already got a bad heart, that increases your risk for cardiovascular death. So it's highly important. What we trying to tell you right now, that sleep apnea is a killer. Now we're gonna sit here and we try to go give you some attributes about what sleep apnea does. We're gonna rely on some of this paperwork we got so that you can get the best information that we got and what's out there on the general market right now. Uh, the other thing sleep apnea can do, like I said, it can enhance your disease. It definitely will cause kidney problems. Uh, so causes you to have arm numbness, things like that. So what the sleep apnea can also do, it damages your brain because why? If you don't have enough oxygen going through your body, consequently, you ain't got enough going to your brain because the oxygen that's going through your body is going through your blood and the blood is pumping to your brain. So you got to have enough oxygenation in your blood system so that it can support the brain and help it breathe as well to keep it functional. And usually, a lot of people who have traumatic brain injuries, and I know that's a new thing to a lot of us because we don't even know what the heck uh, TBI is, traumatic brain injury. It is simple. If you while in the military, if you got hit upside the head, fell down, bumped your head, was running from the enemy and dove in a ditch and caused trauma to your head, even if you was one of the artillery and you were shooting that big 105 howitzer and you were standing there while you was firing that thing off. Every time that gun shot, it not only shook the ground, but it shook you as well. And as a result of shaking you, it shook your brain. Now, uh, very rarely they don't want VA gonna tell you this, but that shaking of the brain, though it's minuscule as far as them measuring the decrease in the brain, it is an absolute fact proven by the study done by the Department of Veteran Affairs and other medical organizations that even a minute shaking of the brain is called TBI. And there's no way you can tell it unless you're a doctor or have the analytical skill for the machinery to determine how much brain loss you have suffered as a result of getting hit in the head or because of loud banging or being around loud guns or jet plane engines that were a lot of guys worked on jet planes and all that loud jet engine caused a reduction in in your brain mass. Also, it has been determined that even the smoke that came off the rounds of a fire, when you breathe that stuff in, it had an effect on your brain because that smoke went into your system and into your blood and consequently went out through your whole body. So it's kind of like what can the brain? I mean, what can cause t, uh, uh, sleep apnea? Well, there's a myriad of things. One, not only is it physical disease that can cause there's mental diseases that can cause as well sleep apnea. If you got one, let's just go through them here, brother.
Yes, sir.
Greg. I think we already wrote them down. What
Yes,
you
sir.
got down there?
PTSD, as you mentioned it, could be secondary caused by mental disorders.
So what's a PTSD?
PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, and you can have that in the military, whether you went through combat or even if you didn't have combat, if you had a stressful job. As far as PTSD and sleep obstructive sleep apnea due to the mental side of the house, it can be a myriad from anything from major depression disorder to bipolar to schizophrenia to anxiety and depression. It can be stemmed from hypertension, known as high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and once again, PTSD. Uh, those are a number of things that go into play when we get to talking about obstructive sleep apnea. And as you said before, it is a killer. It is a very serious issue. It is a standalone issue as well. Just because it's secondary to those issues that we've mentioned, obstructive sleep apnea itself stands alone.
Right, and you know, one of the, I want to read this article that was printed um, regarding, and we're not just talking about Vietnam veterans, but I do want to emphasize the Vietnam veterans because the last major war the United States was involved in, when we lost a lot of troops and who had to deal with this thing over a several-year period. Uh, One of the things that this article said that many Vietnam veterans exposed to Agent Orange suffered from sleep apnea. They all experiencing a perfect storm of sleep apnea problems, breathing disorders, mental health condition, heart condition, diabetes, all all causing an epidemic of sleep apnea in Vietnam veterans. Now, what is that simply saying? It's simply saying if you have, such as I have, heart condition, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you got uh, uh, any mental disorder, as Sergeant Harris was saying, these are diseases that will cause you to have sleep apnea. So when you file the claim for any condition regarding sleep apnea, you have to file the claim saying service-connected sleep apnea as secondary to any of these conditions that you might have. And if you got a multitude of conditions, then you file the claim service-connected sleep apnea secondary to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, uh, breathing problems, health problems, whatever the mental strain that you got, MDD, which is major depression disease, that will cause sleep apnea, and that is secondary. The secondary aspect of sleep apnea would be associated with those diseases. What the military terms it is, or VA terms it is, as a nexus. And a word nexus simply means there is an association between a disease and another disease. So if there's a nexus, it simply means that if I got a heart disease, then I can go back to, well, basically there's a nexus between my heart disease and my sleep apnea, because if I've got sleep apnea, it can be caused by my heart disease and vice versa. If I've got sleep apnea, I can cause heart disease to come up on me as well. So, but if I already have the heart disease, then I'm gonna develop the sleep apnea. So that's secondary to my heart disease. That's why when you file the claim, you must say service-connected sleep apnea, because it could be either or. If I don't have heart disease, once I get the sleep apnea, eventually, or what's going to happen is it's going to cause me to develop heart disease. It's going to cause me to develop any other mental disorders. It may cause me to develop whatever disease that's out there that's associated with it, because I'm not getting my proper rest, not getting proper sleep. I don't have the proper blood flow as far as oxygenation. And so you have to make sure that when you are not sleeping properly as you should, and I read one article says that you need at least 8 hours of sleep a night. I know I don't get it, and a lot of people that I talk to, especially veterans, we don't get those 8 hours of sleep. The most I think that I get at night is about 6.5 hours. That's because even when I go to bed to go to sleep, I can't go to sleep. And it has to do with, I don't know, I guess the mental and function that's going on in my brain. One, I don't want to go to sleep because hidden in, and I understand mine as I read some of these documents, that even hidden in my own thought process, even though it's almost 50 years ago that I was in Vietnam, I'm still affected by Vietnam because I'm doing things that I did in Vietnam. For instance, I'm at home, I'm on guard duty. Okay? I'm trying to figure out when I'm sleeping, my family sleep, when we in that sleep, my mind it will focus on who's trying to break in my house. So I got to try to make sure that the enemy don't break in on me like the enemy was breaking had a potential break-in on me in Vietnam. So these things this is what causes you to set up. Well, let me set up here and see what's going to happen. What can I do to prevent certain things to happen? So, so the key thing is what I'm trying to get all of us to understand, whether you are Vietnam, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, whatever you in, that sleep apnea can affect all veterans, and it can affect. And it don't make them know whether you male or female. If you were in that situation, if you got problems sleeping at night, you probably have sleep apnea. You need to get to your primary care physician, or you can go to your private physician and get you a sleep study done so that it can be so that you can find out whether or not you got sleep apnea and whether or not it's associated with any diseases that you already have. Now, right now, as they pointed out in one article, that veterans with sleep apnea is that they, uh, with all the claims that we've got filed for veterans with sleep apnea, there's about 76% of them that's denied on the first go around. So what does that mean? That simply means that when you file a sleep apnea claim, you got to make sure you got your ducks in a row. You got to have your medical records.
That's right.
You got to have your military records, and you need a proper sleep study. There's no point in you filing a claim for sleep apnea without a sleep study. But that's the first thing that the Department of Veteran Affairs is going to ask you for. Where is your sleep study? And like I said, you can do either one. You can do either or. You can use your primary care physician at VA, or you can use your own private doctor. What I like to tell people to do is, I would go to VA, get me a sleep study, and then I would go to my private physician and get a sleep study. Therefore, you would have two conditions. Hopefully, that they both will agree. If the VA and what VA doctor's going, if he says that you got obstructive sleep apnea, and that's the basis of the way it's identified under the 38 CFR Code of Federal Regulation that VA looks at. They call it obstructive sleep apnea. So if you want to make sure that you got the right information and the right plans to argue before VA regarding sleep apnea, the cause and effects of that sleep apnea, whether it's secondary to any pre-existing disability or disease that you have, you must have that sleep study done. Uh, and I tell people right now, if you file a claim for PTSD, you might as well go ahead right there and file a claim for sleep apnea. Because what you do, if you don't do that, guess what? If you file a claim for PTSD solely, and then 2 years down the road, Department of Veteran Affairs said, oh, by the way, we have granted PTSD. Okay, and now you got to go back 2 years later and file a claim for obstructive sleep apnea, which now you're already 2 years behind. Okay, so what our argument is, the sooner you get your sleep apnea tested, right? As soon as you get your sleep apnea tested, guess what? The better off you are. You can start getting your claim process to determine whether or not you have service-connected sleep apnea, and that's what we're trying to get you to. So the other thing, now you had some cases that we had outlined. So what do you got there? These are some cases. These are cases that's already been adjudicated, that is been resolved with the Department of Veteran Affairs for veterans who have sleep apnea. These are the causes and effects of sleep apnea. So in all of these cases, VA has said through their rulings that these conditions have caused sleep apnea. Therefore, sleep apnea is secondary to all of these conditions.
The first one would be hypertension. We saw Mr. Banks and I were.
What is hypertension?
Hypertension is high blood pressure. The basics for the nexus of high blood pressure, 3 different readings. And if the VA could see 3 different readings of high blood pressure on a consistent basis, then you were diagnosed with high blood pressure, and you were pretty much granted a service connection for high blood pressure. better known as hypertension. As we were taking a look at the rulings earlier, we saw that where they granted not only in one case hypertension, uh, we're assuming that they didn't grant the claim for it earlier, but they granted both the obstructive sleep apnea and the hypertension both at the same time frame. And also for type 2 diabetes, uh, sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea was granted as well. Going back to the PTSD side of obstructive sleep apnea, you have to also remember and keep in mind that if you do not have uh, there's a caveat to that. The caveat to it is if you're just filing for PTSD from the beginning and you file for your sleep apnea both, that's perfect. You're in what I call in a perfect storm. But it also says that if you are filing for sleep apnea and you do not have a PTSD rating, you should probably want to go ahead on and get that rating to increase your chances to get approved for both the sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, and the PTSD. That would further help your claim.
And you're right. So one thing you got to make sure you do, and that's what most of these cases that the Department of Veterans Affairs have found to be service-connected sleep apnea, they have a nexus, that is, they can show a correlation between the two diseases, because that's what they are, and that's the correlation. They call it a nexus, or they call it second, or the next thing is secondary too. So it's almost a must that you must have either already been service connected through the Department of Veterans Affairs for either PTSD, type 2 diabetes, what else we got? Hypertension,
mental disorders,
all mental disorders. That's what you got to have. Once you get the prerequisite for the secondary cause of sleep apnea, which are these diseases, then you then file the sleep apnea claim. But understood what I just said earlier before. If you have a post-traumatic stress claim and there's sufficient cause for you to believe that the post-traumatic stress will be successfully won, I would file at the same time my sleep apnea claim. Now, you can do it either or. You can wait till you get the PTSD claim and go at it from that standpoint. Or as I have learned that what we do, if I file the claim for post-traumatic stress disorder, I also file the claim for sleep apnea. And when I get the initial decision that says, oh, you must have a pre-existing condition in order to prove that you got sleep apnea. Well, when I do my notice of disagreement, I tell them I disagree. And when it goes on to the system, and then I finally get my PTSD, I already got my claim for sleep apnea already in force or in the process. So the basic thing, and one of the things that we always like to, in a sense, I'm a Vietnam veteran, of course. I'm a stickler about the Vietnam veterans to the point where when I look up these things regarding disabilities and diseases, first thing I want to look at is, and here we have a study that was written by the sleep disturbance in Vietnam, in the Vietnam generation. Findings from the National Representative Sample of Male Vietnam Veterans. Now, I don't pay attention to the word male Vietnam veteran, because if you're a female, it applies to you as well. If you're a Vietnam veteran or was in the theater in Vietnam. But the conclusion of this particular report said, conclusion, frequent nightmares appear to be virtually specific for PTSD. The nightmare is the domain of sleep disturbances most related to exposure to war zone stress, traumatic stress. Now, what that's talking about war zone traumatic stress. But now look, there are other traumatic stresses that a veteran or soldier, regardless of what branch of service you're in, encounters even when they don't go to a war zone. So if let's say you went to Germany and you wasn't in the war, you still could, there could be traumatic things that happen in your in your situation that causes you, once you get out of the military, to relive, rethink, revisit those conditions, which now, while they were stressful in the military, now it has become stressful or trauma on once you get out. That's what it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. It is a condition, post-traumatic is a condition that you had that was a trauma or a stressful condition in the military that now once you're out, you still experience that, such as what? Nightmare of the event. Uh, waking up,
Flashbacks during the daytime.
flashbacks, doing hypervigilance. I mean, the same identical traits that are the criteria used under the DSM-5, which is the manual that you have to follow to determine who has PTSD. If you go back and look under the DSM-5, you'll find that most of the time when veterans have post-traumatic stress disorder, because under that criteria, the DSM-5, they had those conditions or met the criteria for uh, a decision by the Department of Veteran Affairs to determine that yes, indeed, this person has uh, post-traumatic stress disorder. So whether it comes from, if you were in a war zone, you saw people getting killed, you saw dead bodies, you help people move, you help move dead bodies, you help bury dead bodies, whatever. You just saw masses of people dying. That is trauma. Even though while you're in the act of doing what you're doing to try to save your life, even though right then it's not trauma, it eventually, depending upon how it affects you 2 months later, depending on what you saw, and no one can tell you what effect that traumatic event had on your mind or on your psyche. The only way they can determine that is by when you get back, they look at what they call the stressors. The stressors mean when I got back home or when I was in the military, could I go to sleep at night, or do I sit up at night anticipating danger? When I do go to sleep, am I having flashbacks or dreaming about the condition that I experienced in the military? So it's what they call associated things that you go through while you are asleep, while you're awake, that reminds you of the trauma that you experienced while you were in the military. And it does not have to be combat related. So get that thing out of your head that only combat related stress trauma is qualifies for PTSD. Whatever the trauma is, combat or non-combat trauma, if it was experienced in the military, then there's a possibility you qualify. The only way we're gonna know you don't qualify, the only way you're gonna know that you do qualify is that you have to process a claim. VA ain't gonna. One thing the Department of Veteran Affairs is not going to do. They'll treat you all day long for PTSD. They may even say you have it, but they ain't gonna tell you that you need to file a claim for PTSD, and they ain't gonna file one unless you demand that it be filed. So if you don't know, 9 times out of 10, you won't get a claim filed for PTSD until you go to a veteran service officer in your area, or you come see a visa, because that's what we do. We help veterans process claims. We help you. We assist you. We don't represent you, but we'll do all we can to make sure that you get your claim processed so that it can be brought before the Department of Veteran Affairs, so that your claim and your arguments will be heard before the judiciary system. That's what we do here.
And
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and another thing, going back to our previous videos, how we explained the process of claims. Not only as Mr. Banks alluded to that we're here at a visa, but any VSO that you go to must provide 3 things to the VA in order to help get your claim approved. You have to determine how and when you received your injury, what happened after you received your injury, how did you get treated, did you get treated, and how is it affecting you today? What is the severity of your injury today? Once those 3 things, 3 dots can be connected, then we can put the picture together and send that to the VA.
All right. Now, let me give you, here's what the uh, Department of Veteran Affairs plus uh, what they call peer review, that is statements and made by clinic and what they call obstructive sleep apnea clinic doctors have stated as far as the symptoms. These are the symptoms of PTSD. I mean, of sleep apnea. I'm sorry, obstructive sleep apnea. One, excessive daytime sleeping. Do you just set up and if you're not really busy, you just go to sleep? Some people, I obviously know some people to be busy, uh, but not moving around, and they while they're busy, they just go to sleep. I mean, I've done it because sometimes I've been working on a claim and working hard and think I'm still typing, but I'm asleep. Then I have to wake up. Oh, I was asleep because my finger set up on the computer
No.
pad, and all I got is a bunch of lines on it. So the one condition is excessive daytime sleepiness, loud snoring at night. That is a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder. Uh, sleep apnea. I'm sorry. Observe episodes of breathing sensation during sleep. Now, what that mean? I mean breathing and stop breathing. I mean, you can't observe it, but somebody else, would observe it. More likely, if you got a spouse, they know that you're sleeping, breathing in and out, and stop breathing, and along with this loud snoring you're doing. Because and basically, how do you define when somebody stop breathing? Because when they'll breathe, while they're sleeping, they start. I mean, they stop breathing. They're trying to get to catch their breath again. Once that, and that's what I was saying earlier, that we can stop breathing. Unless you catch the breath back up, you will die because the brain said that they don't cut the breathing off. So the brain ain't working. And once you stop breathing for so long, ain't nothing more for you to do is die. Uh, abrupt awakening accompanied by gasping or choking. Kind of what I described a while ago. You wake up because what it is, as I've studied since we've been doing this helping veterans, it's a flap in the back of your throat that the older we get, the larger it gets, and then when we lay down and go to sleep, it folds back into our throat area and cuts off the oxygen going in. That's why when when VA determines that you got sleep apnea, what's the first thing they're gonna do? Once they make a determination that you got obstructive sleep apnea, first thing they're gonna do is they're gonna give you a CPAP machine, CPAP. It's a CPAP machine. It's utilized when you sleep for breathing purposes. If you're sitting in your chair watching TV, put your sleep apnea machine on. If you, especially when you get ready to go to sleep at night, make sure you put your sleep apnea machine on. And I had to go. I'm one of the world worst because when I first started, I mean that thing. When I put that thing on my face, I felt like I was back in Vietnam. I was in the tunnel, that finna get killed or die, and I had to take it off. I had to get used to that thing. As a matter of fact, they had to give me another mask because the first one I had was all over my face. Finally, I got a mask that was just covering my nose right around my mouth, and so then I could live with that. I didn't have all this stuff wrapped up around my face, what it was at first. So if if you got a problem with breathing through things, let your doctor know that this is the wrong mask. I need one that would be suitable to my feeling and my condition. Because like I said, when I had mine over my face, I could not wear it. I was back in Vietnam. I was scared to death. Matter of fact, when I took my sleep apnea test at the Department of Veteran Affairs, when they put all that stuff on me and cut that light off, I heard them say, "Oh, y'all got to come get it off here." They came in and took that mask off my face, and I did a sleep apnea study with that. They could tell based upon my heart rhythm, based upon my breathing and the stuff they had all up in my chest and stuff, that whether I stopped breathing and how many times I stopped breathing. Another thing that a symptom of sleep apnea is, are you having morning headaches? If you're having morning headaches, it's probably attributable to the fact that you was not getting enough oxidation to your brain, and now your brain is stressed. Okay, so the brain is stressed. Now you get up. Now you got to try to get yourself active so you can get a proper blood flow with oxygenation in your brain, so that you can come out of that cloud. If you woke up in the morning with, like your head was clouded, you getting the poor blood circulation in your head. Difficulty concentrating during the day. Uh, if you're not doing it at night, you just said, I can't concentrate on what's going on. Probably you still, again, you got poor blood circulation because of the sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea. Experiencing mood changes such as depression or irritability. So, I mean, these are scientific findings. Matter of fact, the one I'm reading from, if you want to find out what the Mayo Clinic says about sleep apnea, go on the internet, put in there obstructive sleep apnea, Mayo Clinic, and you'll read just what I'm reading to you. So you don't have to take my word for it. Go on the internet, go on and pull it up and find it for yourself. Uh, what's another cause of sleep apnea, besides depression and irritability? High blood pressure, night sweating, uh, decreased libido. You know what that is? Erectile dysfunction. If you got decreased erectile dysfunction, it's probably because not only you got a problem with sleep. If you ain't got enough sleep, the body ain't functioning. The blood ain't moving right, and you got to have that blood function and moving right to get it up. And that's just how straight it is. If you ain't got the blood functioning in your body right, going to all parts of the body, it definitely ain't gonna get that libido up. It's gonna be down. So, but when you get that proper oxygen, uh, everything will function. Now, what does it say in the Mayo Clinic study that was done? It also says that when we find ourselves, and this is when if your wife, she's listening, or your husband, or he's listening, or whoever your partner is that's listening, it says when you hear these conditions happening with your spouse or your partner, then you need to find a physician or consult a physician to determine what's going on. Because here are conditions: snoring loud enough to disturb your sleep and that of others. So if you got somebody in the house or in your bed or in the next room, if they're snoring loud enough to affect your sleeping, they got a serious problem. And that's just no doubt. They got sleep apnea. I'm trying to tell my daughter. My daughter got sleep apnea. I know without a shadow of a doubt she ain't had a test yet. Because when you're sleeping so hard that it's almost a challenge to breathe, that means your heart is over pumping. It's pumping more than it should be just for you to go get a night's sleep. Then a lot of times, the other thing, waking up, gasping, or choking. We was talking over that a while ago. Intermediate pauses in your breathing during sleep. That's the main thing. That's one of the main keys that the Department of Veteran Affairs looks for when they do that sleep study. Or how many times you stop sleeping. I believe the report that I just read from one of the gentlemen that was involved, out of 33 times, them checking him for breathing, stop breathing, 32 out of 33 times he stopped breathing. I mean, that's over 97%. Okay. Um, Excessive daytime drowsiness, which may cause you to fall asleep while you're working. Do you do that? Cause you to fall asleep while watching TV. Most time, when you got sleepy apnea, you ain't watching the TV. TV watching you.
I've even fell asleep at the red light before.
I
Just
have
sitting
too.
there waiting on the light to change.
And matter of fact, it's a coincidence. You just said that one of the keys to look out for, even driving a vehicle, you go to sleep. And I've done it. I wouldn't even park. I would ride down the road. Next thing I know, I was on the side. Oh, how I get over here? Because I dozed off just for that. And I had my eyes wide open, saying to myself, don't go to sleep. Don't go to sleep. Next thing I know, I'm on the side of the road. So in the Mayo Clinic report, it also says that when we be sure to talk to your doctor if you experience loud snoring, especially snoring that punctuated by periods of silence. How do we know the periods of silence is happening? If you're sleeping with someone or you in a room with someone and they snoring and all of a sudden they stop snoring and then pick it back up, that means they stop breathing. They stopped breathing. And then they had to catch it back up when the brain said to the body, you gotta breathe. And if you don't breathe, you're gonna die. Then so that's when you do that. So we're trying to get you some information, veteran, so that you can understand. And for those who are not veterans, I mean, if you got a family member and you need to encourage that family member, they need to get to see a doctor because it will kill you because you'll stop breathing. Not only will it kill you from stop breathing, it will cause you to have a massive heart attack. You know why? Because one, you laying there trying to breathe and your heart is pumping extra hard, trying to pump blood to those areas that's not getting no oxygen. Um, now, we probably won't have time to go through all these things. We'll do another segment, but but let me read this here because I think this is vitally important for you to get. What the Mayo Clinic has determined that the causes of obstructive sleep apnea. It occurs when the muscles in the back of your throat relax too much to allow normal breathing. These muscles support structures including the soft palate, the uvula, a triangular piece of tissue hanging from the soft palate, the tonsil, and the tongue. So you got three things there that can stop, that can potentially cause you to stop breathing. Tongue recedes back into your throat. The palate drops down because it's not up anymore. Uh, and your tonsils. Your brain, and just what I just said earlier, when the muscle relaxes, your airways narrow and closes as you breathe in. And breathing may be inadequate for 10 to 20 seconds. This may lower the level of oxygen in your blood and cause a buildup of carbon dioxide. And what does carbon dioxide do to the body? Kills it. Kills it. That's what it does to the heart. Carbon monoxide, dioxide kills the body, kills the heart. You can awaken with transient shortness of breath that corrects itself quickly with one or two deep breaths. You may make a snoring, choking, or gasping sound. The sudden pattern can repeat itself 5 to 30 times or more each hour all night long. Okay, so you say I'm sleep 6.5 hours, 6 hours, 6 times 30. Huh? That's a whole lot of stopping to sleep.
180 times.
Okay. This disruption impairs your ability to reach the desired deep, restful phase of sleep. And you probably feel sleepy during your waking hours. Yep, we'll do that. People with obstructive sleep apnea may not be aware that their sleep was interrupted. In fact, many people with this type of sleep apnea think they slept well all night. This is a killer. It's worse than your heart attack. If you already got cardiovascular disease, that means that much more pressure is being put on your heart by inadequate oxygen flowing through your blood and in your body. Uh, and that's for all of these conditions, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, it doesn't happen. So I want to say to you, if you know, if you are serious about your health condition, or if you don't understand that this condition, the sleep apnea again, is a disability that can be brought under control with a CPAP machine. With VA, if the Department of Veteran Affairs determined through a sleep apnea examination that you do have obstructive sleep apnea, they're gonna provide you free with a sleep apnea machine, and they're gonna tell you how to use it, how often, and all the things that you have to do to make sure it's functioning. But for those who are civilians who don't have the uh, the, the the free machine, and I wish we could find, uh, it's almost kind of crazy that when you look out here into the system of trying to get a sleep apnea machine, them things is they're way up there as far as monetary value. It seems to me, with all the people who are suffering from this stuff, that ought to be, I'm not saying get away free, but why not? I mean, here we are, people dying every day because of sleep apnea, and they want to blame it on heart disease and all this other stuff. That's because sleep apnea has caused these things. So, what we said to you, if you're a citizen of just a regular citizen, you don't have the ability to get a machine through the Department of Veteran Affairs, you at least need to get to the doctor and let the doctor give you a diagnosis of sleep apnea, and then at that time pursue what other methods you can use in order to get a machine, maybe at some low cost, maybe even free. But we want to let the word out that this sleep apnea is killing people, and it definitely without a shadow of a doubt harder on the elderly than it is on our young people. So, brother, so I just say to all the people that are listening, uh, get concerned about it. If you need help to file claim, if you need help, assistance to tell you what to do and how to do it, then you get a hold of, you call all Veteran Empowerment Services. We're located at 500 South Rosser Street, Forest City, Arkansas, 72335. Our telephone number is 870-494-3005. We have a fax number, 870-494-3066. And we are here Monday through Thursday. Uh, so, I mean, it's our hope, it's our desire that if you got a problem, call in, let us know. I mean, we are a non-profit organization. We don't have a product to sell. We don't make any money based upon a commodity. But what we do is we are here open, and Mr. Harris, myself, Mr. Cottrell, we're all voluntary service workers. We don't get paid. We got to have our administrative secretary that we do pay, and it's a struggle because we got to pay the light, gas, water out of donations and contributions that we receive from you, the general public. And let me tell you, I mean, we have if you send us a $25 donation, we try to send out a blanket, a throw blanket. But you know what? The bottom line is that we are struggling at this point trying to keep these doors open. And yes, we've helped a lot of veterans. And it's so sad that I have to sit here and tell you that even when we got the veterans, you need to step up to the plate. When you get your finances, when you get your settlement, when you get your 100% disability, you need to give back to the organization that helped you get it so that we can keep on and continue to help other veterans. This is a free service, basically. Like I said, if we don't get your donation, if we don't get a donation from other sources that we receive our monies from, hey, and I can tell you this here, we only have one sponsor out of all of these businesses here in Forest City, Arkansas, and surrounding area. We have assisted and at least veterans out of 23 states. I mean, so I know our reputation as far as getting your benefit. We're gonna get it because we make sure that we put forth a diligent effort. We study the law, we study the 35 CFR, we look at your case, and we do research to make sure that we can give you the best possible service that's possible. The fact of the matter is, there ought to be some. We ought to have enough reciprocation as a veteran. You ought to have, once you get your pay, your benefits, and you are taken care of through the Department of Veteran Affairs, reach out and help your comrade. And with that, Brother Harris, I think we're about at the conclusion.
Yes,
You
sir.
got anything else?
Just a quick story.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's on a personal note to the veterans, as we browbeat you enough about the importance of service-connected obstructive sleep apnea. I'm here to tell you, at 40 years old, as Mr. Banks said, it's even more powerful than a heart attack. But I've had a heart attack, and as of July 26, 2017, I had the defibrillator put in because of the sleep apnea. It was one of the things that they were looking at as well as my health. They being as a concern of stopping breathing in my sleep. The defibrillator was put there to help combat that as well. So don't let your condition get bad where you have to put a defibrillator or even a pacemaker in to sustain yourself. Go and get this issue taken care of.
All right. Now, again, we ask that if you will, if you want to send a contribution and to help us maintain these operations, to help us continue to give the best assistance that we can to veterans. Doesn't make a difference whether you war veteran or whether you one who never went abroad. We help all veterans. That's what our name is. All Veteran Empowerment Services. Meaning that we assist and we help everybody that has a legitimate claim. Now, we don't do no mess. If you ain't got a claim, we let you know you ain't got one. So, but if you got a legitimate claim, we gonna fight. And if we get to the point where it seems we need to advance it further, we do have an attorney that we forward it to, and we'll give you the details on how we do that when we sit down and talk to you about before we even send it to the attorney. I'm gonna ask Mr. Harris to give you all the information that you need. That you don't have to send your contribution in. You can simply put it on PayPal. Okay.
The website that you go to donate via PayPal is avesiinc.net, avesiinc.net. And on that avesiinc.net, that is our official Avesi webpage. Down at the bottom in the center is hit that donate button. Once you hit that donate button, it goes to PayPal. Go in, put the email address, and it also send you a receipt to the email address that you put in, so that way you'll know for a fact that it was donated, and then that would be your copy of submitting the donation.
Okay, and one thing we definitely make sure we do at the end of the year, we send you whatever you donated that year. We send you a copy in the form of a letter stating what you gave that year that you may use for tax purposes, deduction if you so desire. But as again, like I said, we thank you and we appreciate your time. We're a nonprofit again, and we hope that what we've given you this afternoon will be beneficial in your decision either to file a claim, or see a doctor, or come see a visa, or whoever your favorite organization is, VFW, DAV, or whoever you want to talk to, but you at least need to follow up on any sleep problems you got by doing what we had just told you on this afternoon. With that, Brother Harris, we say at ease.